Welcome back to this special edition of Clear Cut Plus and my conversation with former Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos. I asked him about those now infamous Clinton emails and if he told anyone in the Trump campaign about them.
So I have absolutely no recollection whatsoever of ever telling anyone affiliated with the campaign about that statement.
Why not? Why would you not share that kind of information? Seems like it would be something they would want to hear.
I really don't know. I mean, there are many reasons. I did openly gossip with the Greek foreign minister, so that did happen. But I just never saw it as anything to really transmit to the campaign, especially considering the campaign wasn't even interested in this foreign policy trip to Russia. So that's probably why. But
were you looking for a better time to convey that information, or was it really something that you dismissed as not that important?
I took it as something just not really that important, as more of gossip, and and that's why I openly gossiped with the Greek foreign minister about it in his office. Many people were gossiping about it, especially in diplomatic circles. It wasn't a secret, like many people believe. And just to be quite clear, I never heard the word DNC or John Podesta from Joseph Mifsud. So there's also a misunderstanding that Joseph Mifsud had been leaking information about the DNC hack, which I never heard anything like that from. So just to be clear about that.
Okay, but George, Australia's former High Commissioner to the UK, Alexander Downer, claims that you told him about Russians having a material on Hillary Clinton at a bar in London when you two met. Firstly, how did that meeting even come about in the first place?
Great. So this meeting has been misrepresented in the media. This meeting took place through 3 intermediaries. It wasn't a random event. No one was drunk in a bar in Kensington, and he did not just stumble upon me in this bar. In April of 2016, approximately a month after I joined the Trump campaign, I had been in discussions with the Israeli government in London, who then introduced me to the Australian government in April of 2016. And the person that I was introduced to was a young lady named Erica Thompson. I did not know it at the time until much later, but this person just happened to be Alexander Downer's assistant. Before I meet with this individual, Alexander Downer, the U.S. Embassy reaches out to me and is quite interested in my background, who I am, what I'm doing in London. So there were many steps leading up to this meeting with Alexander Downer. As soon as I get to this meeting with Alexander Downer, it feels completely controlled. I believe he was recording my conversation with him, and it was no ordinary meeting. And to be quite clear, as I've stated before, I have absolutely no recollection of ever talking about emails with Alexander Downer. He himself has contradicted himself at least 3 times in various interviews about what was said and what was not said.
Did you know at the time that Downer had deep ties to Clinton charities, that he had helped previously secure a $25 million donation from the Australian government to a Clinton Foundation-linked charity, the Clinton Health Access Initiative? I mean, how much of this background were you aware of going into the meeting?
I knew absolutely nothing about this person. If I knew even a scintilla of what you just stated, I would have never met with him, of course. But clearly, after people have, reporters and news reports such as the one you just referenced have come out about this individual, it makes complete sense of why he would be recording me or part of some sort of operation to potentially sabotage the Trump campaign.
And you say that you did not tell Downer about the information that Mufsid gave you regarding the Russians having access to the Clinton emails. You did not discuss this with him.
I have absolutely no recollection of talking about it with him. I remember many facets about this meeting with Alexander Downer. It was such a strange meeting that it was quite hard to actually forget the meeting because it was so bizarre. Just his behavior, he was very belligerent. He was sweating, he was pulling his phone out and recording me. So it was one of the more bizarre meetings I had. I've had many bizarre meetings over my professional career in Washington and abroad, but this is one that stuck with me and left an indelible mark on my memory. So
George, it was this Australian diplomat that reportedly approached the FBI about 2 months after your meeting and told them about the information that you shared with him, that there was damaging material on Hillary Clinton from the Russians. How do you think he knew about that then, if it didn't come from you during that conversation at the London bar?
Well, how would Joseph Mifsud know the information as well? No one knows. Let's assume that's what happened. As I stated, I don't remember ever talking about it again. And the question you just asked, how would he know? I would say, how did Joseph Mifsud know? How did Judge Napolitano on Fox News the day before Joseph Mifsud told me the same thing? How did he know? Many people were openly speculating about this at the time. So the answer could come from many sources. It doesn't necessarily mean that Alexander Downer heard it from me. He could have said he heard it from me in order to cause some sort of investigation into the Trump campaign, because he had all the motivation to do it.
Okay, so George, fast forward about 2 months after this, Downer reportedly meets with the FBI, tells them about this conversation he claims to have had with you, and then the FBI approaches you. Can you tell us more about what the FBI questioned you about?
Yeah, so let's go back to the dates, though. I meet Alexander Downer in May of 2016. I am not interviewed for the first time by the FBI until January of 2017. Now, my math isn't great, but I think that's about 6 or 7 months after apparently Alexander Downer tells the FBI, which to me makes absolutely no sense if this information was so damaging. And now there's certain new information that's come out that suggests that there was exculpatory evidence that was hidden from me during this entire fiasco. But let's fast forward. We're in January of 2017. I just leave the inauguration. I'm attending parties there with Reince Priebus, Anthony Scaramucci. I'm in discussions with Michael Flynn, with Steve Bannon about joining the administration at the National Security Council. And I'm back in Chicago, essentially packing up my things, waiting to be interviewed by the administration that same night. And the FBI comes to my house. I didn't have an issue. I was shocked, but my conversation with them dealt into many interesting intrinsic topics, including my connection with Sergei Millian, who was a source of the Steele dossier, my ties to Israel, which quite frankly shocked me. It seemed that the FBI was very upset about my connection to Israel, which I didn't understand. And then we fast forward to my dealings with Russia, which, as I've stated, I have never met a Russian official knowingly in my life, and hacking.
Okay, going to stop you there. I want to circle back to the Israel thing. But firstly, earlier you told me that you didn't think it was such a big deal that the professor gave you this information about the Russians having access to the Clinton emails. So why did you not just tell the FBI about it there and then?
Well, no, that's actually the point. I did tell the FBI during my January interview when they, and this is public now, the FBI asked me, did a Russian government official ever talk to you about hacking, or did you have knowledge from the Russian government regarding hacking or anything of that matter? And it's public. I was quoted as saying no. But there was a Maltese man named Joseph Mifsud who told me this information regarding the Russians having thousands of Hillary Clinton's emails. So, of course, if I was part of a major conspiracy of collusion and hacking, why would I tell the FBI this? Of course, I was never part of this.
So what were you dishonest to the FBI about then?
Apparently, I was dishonest about the timing and the exact nature of my interactions with Joseph Mifsud. And the timing means that I lied about when I met Joseph Mifsud and exactly why I was meeting with him. So so to clarify, I did tell the FBI in January that Joseph Mifsud told me the Russians have thousands of Hillary Clinton's emails, but I was charged with lying about my timing and the exact nature of my meetings with this person.
So, George, you said that the FBI reportedly asked you about your ties to Israel and that they seemed upset or concerned about that. Can you elaborate on that for us?
I can't really elaborate now. The things are sensitive about that issue, but I believe after the midterms, if and when President Trump declassifies the FISA documents, that picture should be a lot more clear. So I'll leave it at that for now.
So where do things stand at the moment? What is your theory about what happened here? You describe yourself as patient zero in the so-called Russiagate, that you were entrapped. What is your theory about what happened to you?
As I've said, given that I'm an individual, an expert in a particular field, that's energy in the Mediterranean, with absolutely no context whatsoever in the Russian government. I've never met a Russian government official in my entire life. I've never traveled to Russia. I don't have Russian friends. How on earth could a man like me be at the center of a Russia conspiracy, given that, of course, the CIA, the FBI, the MI6, probably every intelligence organization in the world knew what my background was, and they understood that I had no context whatsoever in Russia. Now, fast forward, then why would I be under scrutiny for my ties in the Middle East and in Israel? My theory is that because the real relevance of my case is that the Obama DOJ and probably the State Department didn't like what I was promoting in the Mediterranean, that there was a target on me for that. And then in order to create this red herring, not to focus on that sensitive issue, they planted me in this Russia false conspiracy. There's absolutely no other explanation for how I could be involved in this, especially given that just recently, Joseph Mifsud's own lawyer has gone public and stated that Joseph Mifsud was never working for the Russians, but he was working on behalf of Western intelligence and perhaps even the FBI while he was encountering George Papadopoulos. So this is all public information now.
It is, and to your point, Mifsud does, according to his advisor and lawyer, appear to be an employee that is working for Western intelligence agencies, or at least associated with them. But why would the Obama administration be upset about your work with Israel, as you claim they were?
So we were basically promoting an agenda that was being listened to in Congress and in that part of the world that was not supported by the Obama administration.
All right. So, George, you maintain that the Obama administration did not like the policies that you were going to promote, and so you think that you were targeted because of this, as well as set up with this whole Russian angle. What is your next step then? And correct me if any of the assumptions I made earlier were incorrect. What is your next step here?
The assumptions are correct, and actually, Stefan Halper, who's been outed now as a FBI, CIA, MI6 asset, who's actually the origin of this word Spygate, paid me to write a report as an excuse to meet with me in London when he was spying on me and other members of the campaign about my work in the Mediterranean and the gas fields and Turkey. So moving forward, of course, once I believe I will be exonerated from this situation, it looks like America is supporting me. They're supporting my family. The truth is coming out. I think once I'm exonerated, I would certainly like to get back to advising as I was.
But in terms of, George, in terms of retracting your plea deal, what is your move there, is what I mean, specifically with regards to all of this, your next step?
Oh, great. In terms of that, I have excellent new counsel now, and we're actively discussing all options in with a more aggressive approach. So stay tuned for what's going to happen. We haven't made decisions yet, but we're looking at all avenues right now.
And thanks again to George Papadopoulos for sharing his story with me here on I-24 News.